Hi everyone, thank you for joining us for this Adapting Your Business live broadcast. So today or this evening, depends on where you are, we're going to be talking about marketing your clinic during COVID-19. So I'm aware that there's many people in very different sort of states with their business right now. Maybe you're able to still practice with some restrictions. Perhaps you're doing telehealth only at the moment, or maybe you can't practice at all. And we hopefully have some tips for you on how you can do marketing during this period, irrespective of where your business is currently at. So in this session, now I'm joined by Michelle. I'll just bring Michelle in to join us. Hi, Michelle.
Hey.
So Michelle is on the Cliniko team, and Michelle does growth marketing for us. Michelle, if you wouldn't mind, could you just do a very brief, introduction to yourself, maybe your background and what you do for Cliniko?
Sure, yeah. So I joined in January, which seems like a really long time ago now, but hasn't been. And the main things I look after are increasing awareness of new prospective customers and helping to retain the ones we already have on board. And that spans a few different marketing channels. So search engine marketing in particular and content marketing, social media, paid advertising, email, all that kind of stuff. And before I joined, I had about 7 years of experience working in marketing, mostly at early phase, high growth startups here in the UK. Two you might have heard of are Tails.com and Allplants if you are in the UK. But yeah, basically just joining them when they had a few hundred customers and growing them to tens of thousands of customers.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. So what we're going to talk about today, I know a lot is around the communication side for businesses, so how they might be communicating during this period. And I think that a key part of it probably is that depending on where their business is at the moment, they might have some more time available to them right now to, work on things that maybe get neglected when they're at the busiest.
Yeah, for sure. I would say the things that everyone can do, irrespective of what their business status is just first take stock of the fact that everything has kind of changed. Your life has changed, your clients' lives have all changed as well. And even if you're really confident with your clinic's marketing, I think it's important to spend a little bit of time just paused and reconsidering your fundamentals. So for everybody, irrespective of the state you're in, again, you need to take into account that people are spending about 20 to 30% more time online. And that means that they may be looking up your clinic in ways they haven't really done before. So this is your chance, I guess, to maybe if you haven't really spent much time on your site or you don't have a Google My Business, to get that stuff up and running, and then make sure, first and foremost, that it's really clear what your opening hours are, what your status is. And the good news is there's a lot of tools that are in place that can help you do that really easily.
Absolutely. And I should mention right away for people that are watching along now, excuse me, that you can use the comments on YouTube and ask any questions you have. So if it's things that we start to talk about that you want to know more about, or even just general marketing questions, we're happy to answer anything we can. So feel free to post in those comments any questions, and we'll try to cover off on them all during this session. So one thing I wanted to check in on, and something that I always struggle with personally in building software for a healthcare business and not being a healthcare practitioner myself, and yourself also, Michelle, you don't have a healthcare background as such. So just, I guess, where are you getting this information from? What sort of context do you bring into this discussion?
Sure, yeah. Well, it's not entirely true that I have no healthcare experience. So before I was a marketer, I actually was a veterinary nurse. And I know that's not the same thing as allied health, but I think it gives me some context of, what you guys are all doing out there and how much you're juggling in your roles. So definitely that's something I have in the back of my mind as a marketer. But I think, and this is one thing that really draws me to marketing, is that the fundamentals are the same across all industries and across all platforms, because we all know platforms change, they come and go, all that kind of stuff. But what really counts is understanding your customers and understanding your clients. And I think as allied health professionals, you guys have an advantage over e-commerce marketers, so people selling things online, in that you see your customers face to face, and you should be really tapping into that now. You know who they are, you know what their background is, you know the challenges they're facing. And I think for me, learning about this industry, I've had to get up to speed on that by talking to some of you, and then, through social media. But hopefully today we'll delve a little bit more in other kind of sources for information that you could find online.
Sure, that sounds good. So I touched on it at the start of this, just talking about the fact that a lot of different businesses are in quite a different state at the moment. So like I said, and maybe if people could let us know in the comments while we're talking, if you don't mind, is your business still open? Are you still seeing people in person? Are you doing just telehealth only at the moment? Or are you closed right now and perhaps with more time to work on marketing or other things getting ready for when you reopen? So anyone that can post that in the comments, that would be really helpful. So with that said, possibly we could start to have a think about what things would apply to all of these people. So there's got to be some stuff that no matter what the current state of your business is, there's things you could be doing. What comes to mind, I guess, as the most important things you would say for that?
Yeah, so irrespective, I think I saw a really interesting piece of information from Kantar, who does like marketing research, and they said that companies that focused their time in the last recession in 2008 on building their brand actually grew 8 to 9 times faster after the recession. So what could that mean for you in your healthcare practice? Is, you want to make sure you're visible in the places that your customers are going to be looking. And primarily that's going to be on your homepage. So you want to make sure that you've got, your status updated there, and also on Google. So I alluded a little bit before to Google My Business. So if you don't have that, we actually have a blog on our site that's all about getting that set up. We'll be sharing links after this call. So don't worry if you don't know what I'm talking about right now. But just getting those two things up and running. And then, if you want to do a bit more, I think it's also a really good idea to look at your social media. And I think irrespective of your status, again, it doesn't matter. You don't need to do everything on social media. You don't need to be on every platform. But what you do need to do is think about where your clients might be looking for you. And Facebook is is probably where most people will be. Depending on who your clientele are, you might look at the other channels as well. And in terms of things you could do, you definitely want to start like putting out your opening hours as a bare minimum, a message about how people can reach you. If you're not answering your phone, make sure that people know that and can see that really obviously. And make sure you're watching your messages on social, because you may get people contacting you on there, even if they haven't done before.
So it looks like a lot of answers coming through in the comments are very strongly weighted towards doing telehealth only at the moment. So there's a few exceptions, but I would say vast majority are saying that it's just telehealth for now. So a couple of things you touched on there. My favorite one is I don't need to understand what you're going through at the moment. That takes the pressure off me, that I don't need to be following so accurately, because some of it is definitely not my expertise. But the other part is that we're going to share some links after this. There will be a blog post that goes up following this. So if you touch on certain other platforms or services people could use or things like that, we will provide all the links. So don't worry about trying to search for them or get the names just right. There'll be a follow-up that everyone that has registered for this will get. We'll send it out via email. There'll be a blog. That'll have all the things that we cover today will be listed there, so you can check it later. So some questions that were coming through right away were to do with maybe a little bit relevant to the platform we're using now. So people were asking, what platform are we using? They've never seen a webinar on YouTube. And the other question is, what are our thoughts on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram live sessions versus a webinar? So maybe I could touch on the first bit, what we're using at the moment. So honestly, it was quite difficult to set this up. So I'm using broadcasting software that I run locally. The one I'm using at the moment is called OBS. I used a different one for the last webinar, but if anyone attended and saw some of the technical issues we were having, it was a catalyst for change. So this is using OBS, and then you can stream that straight into YouTube. And we find it works well because it's very accessible. YouTube is something that most people can have access to. And even if you don't want to log into it without comments, you can still watch along, and it stores the replay for later. So we can just link to it and have it hosted online for people that couldn't make it at this particular time. The main reason we didn't use Zoom was the privacy concerns around Zoom. Aside from that, it's super easy. It builds in your registration page. All the functionality is very good. we just couldn't feel comfortable asking people to download it in order to join into our webinars. So we looked for an alternative, and also it was quite hard to find a good alternative. And I think this is our front runner and our favorite so far. I'm also keen, how it is for people watching along. Do you find YouTube a convenient place for it? So the other part was thoughts on Facebook versus YouTube, Instagram live sessions against a webinar. What are your thoughts on that, Michelle?
So there's advantages to each one. For Facebook Live, I think that was actually one of the first platforms we tried way back in the beginning, just when we wanted to do an off-the-cuff event. And what I'd say is about the pros for Facebook Live is, most people have a Facebook account. They're familiar with how to use Facebook. The interface for the for the Facebook Live is really easy. We had a technical issue with it, but in terms of like getting your customers to hear about it and doing that, some of the promo, Facebook makes that super simple. It will go on your page. People will see it. It'll be really obvious. Similar for an Instagram. The only risk you run with that is if, you don't have a slightly younger client base. If you have people who are maybe 40 plus, they may be less familiar with Instagram, but it's a really good one if you just say, hey, I have some free time. I want to connect with my clients. Let's see who's around. You can just start one. And I've seen some really cool Instagram lives actually of people bringing in guests. And I think that's also a really interesting thing because people are looking to that channel specifically for entertainment. So that could be something that you step in and do if you want to talk about a specific topic within healthcare that you think people should know about, and you have a friend or you want to talk to a customer on live, then I'd say Instagram Live is good for that. YouTube, another major advantage is I think people overlook the fact that YouTube is the second biggest search engine. So if you're creating video content, it's always a good idea to put it on there and just optimize make sure that the copy and the headline and the title that you're saving is for the modality and for terms that you want people to be able to find you for. And to sum it up, that's quite a lot. Facebook is good because everybody uses it. Instagram is good for kind of off the cuff entertainment, fun stuff. You get the filters as well if you're concerned about that. And then YouTube is good for in the future people finding you and seeing what you're all about and using the sessions you're recording now to kind of showcase who you are and what your clinic's all about.
Sure. So some of the things touched on there. So someone's asking a question. So 60% of their patient base is 40 plus. So am I assuming that Facebook is probably a good platform for them if you're looking at that kind of age range?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in doubt, Facebook has the biggest user base. And I would say if you're only going to do one, Facebook is probably the platform I would choose. But again, your mileage may vary.
Sure. And also, you just mentioned something about YouTube being second biggest search engine. So I think that a lot of people don't think about, the search capability of YouTube and probably more think of YouTube as a place where you put a video and you share that video. But I think that's a really important thing, that if you label the title of your video clip properly, I think you can use some meta tags or something to go with it. And actually making yourself findable on YouTube could be a real boon to bringing in new people instead of just reaching out to the ones that you already have access to.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And having your own channel with your brand or your logo kind of in the icon, it just looks really slick. And it doesn't take a huge amount of effort to have the videos on there. And once they're there, they're always there.
Yep. So another question was, with Facebook Live, can you have two people in two different locations presenting? So this was one of the challenges that we experienced because all of these live broadcasts we're doing are chatting with other people. And my original one, we had three of us in a call in different locations. So with Facebook Live, you can, but you do need to broadcast to it with some software like OBS or another. So you still need to have some sort of way. I think even actually Zoom might be able to broadcast a Zoom session. Again, not that I particularly recommend it, but there's tools like it that will facilitate the actual group chat and the sending the stream across to Facebook or to YouTube. But it's something you do need to definitely work out. If you're just doing it one-to-one, you can just go YouTube, Facebook and use your webcam and no problem. But if you're going to be talking to someone else, you need to have a way to facilitate that. And it could be a case of using, you can probably see here that Michelle's coming through on Skype at the moment, which is what we're using to bring her into the call. But maybe it's even a case you could just use a program like that and then screen share into, Facebook or YouTube or something if you wanted a simple option. Someone is saying, what was it? Oh, how important do you think it is to use video to showcase your brand or your business?
I think it's a really good medium to reach people because you have to remember that your customers have different preferences for the content they engage with. So I think if you can, it's a good idea to get a variety of mediums. So with your website, you've got the words that you've written about what you do and what you're all about. But some people connect better with video and are more auditory, or visual. And I think playing around with the mediums is just a good way and to test and learn. I think that's a really important part of growth, is just like trying things out and then trying to learn from what you're doing. So video is something I would definitely recommend testing if you can, especially now. And then if it's something that works for you, if you get some good engagement, if you get positive feedback, maybe continuing to do that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Someone was asking, will we provide information how to use this platform? So I see that Martina did link OBS in the comments there. We can include it in the information we give to you that we send out. As for a guide around it, I'm not sure yet. There's a lot of information already out there on how to do so. If people are really struggling, maybe let us know and we can look to do something for it. Someone else is asking about Facebook pages having terrible organic reach. If I'm not mistaken, Facebook has no organic reach. You pay even to reach the people that already follow your page. But what are your thoughts on that, Michelle?
Yes, I agree. Facebook has really clamped down on organic reach. So that just means, if you post something, your audience may not see it unless you boost your post. And if you're prepared to do that, then it's a perfectly reasonable. Like you can. It's definitely nothing wrong with doing that. But what I would say is, Facebook is also a search engine, so it's definitely worth, even if you say I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Facebook. For example, with this situation, making sure your opening hours are pinned in a message at the top of your page. So that people who are searching for you on Facebook can find the information they need. And then it's your choice if that's a platform you want to use to continually engage your audience. You may find you have better results on Instagram. So Instagram has a little bit better organic reach. One of the best platforms for organic reach is actually LinkedIn. But again, it really depends on who your audience is. If you're a massage therapist that prior to COVID had been going business to business, and now your leads have kind of dried up, now is a good time to be on LinkedIn, for example, sharing content and maybe getting your name out there, even though people aren't booking yet.
Sure, that makes sense. There's a question about video editing software, but what I might do is we might skip over the other ones about how we're actually achieving this broadcast. If that's something that people are interested in, I'm happy to do another session on that and we can dive into the details of how we're achieving it, how you can edit video, things like that. But I'm kind of keen to take the most advantage of Michelle while we have her to talk about some of these marketing parts here. So a few people are asking like just live versus pre-recorded. And I know that when we were deciding to do this, some things that appealed to me about live was, firstly, that people can ask questions along the way, like what I'm answering right now. Because otherwise, really, is there a reason that they even come to you for this information? If you wanted to watch a pre-recorded talk, you could go look up now, some marketing experts that have put together some really careful content. There's a lot of stuff out there on the internet. But what's the reason to tune in and watch Cliniko, myself and Michelle here chatting about it? And I think a big advantage and a compelling part is that you get to ask questions. And I think also that for a lot of people, there's kind of never a good time to sit around and watch, this might sound offensive, Michelle, never a good time to sit around and watch a marketing, live recording or something like this. But it might be something you put off and you don't get to. Whereas when there's a time and date and a reason to come and see it now, that could be a reason that you do turn up to do so. But Michelle, what are your thoughts, live versus recorded?
I think it's also about what you feel comfortable with, like where you think you're going to shine. The advantage of a pre-recorded is you can script exactly what you want to say. And maybe if you don't have a huge following yet and you're not sure that live would have a major advantage for you, I'd say start out with recorded. And then you can edit live and recorded, but it's obviously easier to produce like a polished video if you have it frame by frame all mapped out. But yeah, again, it's really about, where you're at and what you want to get out of doing the video. I think that will help you make up your mind on that question.
Sure. I can't help but notice you never gave me that advice, like start out recorded first before you go live. We were kind of like head first into this thing. Maybe.
I mean, I probably should have in hindsight, but yeah.
Okay. Let's see if there's any other questions we should cover at the moment. So a question about TikTok. What do you think of TikTok for marketing?
I think if you have some young clients, so let's say maybe you're a nutritionist and you deal with a lot of 20 somethings, then it could be a great platform for you. It's very much like the new kid on the block. What I would say is for most people, if you want to create video content, I'd prioritize YouTube for the reasons we've talked about a little bit, that it's such a it's owned by Google. The videos will show up in your Google results. And yeah, there's just more people there. But I mean, having said that, I've seen some really interesting examples of other kind of professional services in the United States in particular, creating like PSAs on TikTok, which are just kind of fun and playful. What I'd say is if you want to be on TikTok, go for it. If you think it's going to work for you, do it, try it. But be true to the medium and don't have it be fun, have it be playful, and, have reasonable expectations of what your brand might do on there, depending on who your clients are.
Sure. So maybe we can jump into probably the hardest one first, because a question did come up about it. So their business is closed. They can't see people. They're not doing telehealth. Should they be marketing at all? Or if so, what could they be doing now?
Yeah, that's really tough. So first of all, I'm sorry to hear that. But I think you definitely want to keep the channels of communication open, even if you're shut. So as I mentioned, the first thing is to make sure that it's really clear what you have, what you're doing. If you are closed because of, you have family issues or just because of the circumstances, make sure that's clear on your site. Update your Google My Business, as I said, update your social media. In terms of marketing, I think it'd be a good idea to continue to communicate with your clients. So we have some examples coming up later in the call, just showing ways that other practitioners have done that. So even if you're not open, you could send, and if you've got a newsletter, if you've got an email database, you could send them a message, giving them tips on how to stay healthy, how to look after their mental health. That's a major thing that I think a lot of people are concerned about. It's all about keeping the communication going and making it easy for people to reach out to you. The last thing you want if you're closed is for people to try and reach you and get nowhere and not hear from you. The risk you run is like they don't know that you're closed. They show up at your shop front and you're not there. Or, even worse, they have an appointment booked and they don't know if it's been canceled or not. What they might do in that case is just look for somebody else. And, in the short term, that may be a better solution for that client, but you want them to come back to you when this is all over because this will end. And you'd rather be on the front foot than the back foot.
Absolutely. And I think probably something analogous to what we're doing, even with this session tonight, is, we really sat down when COVID-19 started to become a much bigger thing to decide what can we do to help our customers at this point. Everyone's going to be going through trying times. How can we assist? What can we do to provide value above what we are normally doing? And there's two parts to it. Of course, we actually, we really care about our customers and we want to assist them and do the best for them because they help us a lot by using our software. And it's also good for our business as well. There's no question that making sure our customers stay in business is good for us too. But I think that if your business is closed, you can still find ways to add value to your patients as well. Maybe you can be doing, like we've been talking about, some Facebook Live, Instagram Live, YouTube Live type things. Perhaps you can be providing some exercises that people can be doing or some emotional support or whatever it might be that's relevant to your business and your expertise. But if you have knowledge that you think you could share to a general audience, you might find that providing that kind of information is helpful to your patients or clients and also keeps you front of mind for them so that when you can reopen, you've developed yourself as an expert in the space, you've kept in their mind, and they come to see you when you reopen.
Yeah, exactly.
So then people that are doing telehealth only, which seem to be the vast majority, if they're going to have like a top focus or a top few things to really get onto as quick as they can, what might they be? Yeah,
I'm going to say it again. Make sure that it says on your website really clearly that you are still open for telehealth. And even actually, I'd say if you have a shop front, go there and put a sign up that just says it. Make sure everybody knows that you're doing telehealth. And in terms of like other things you can do, you might want to shift some of the content on your homepage and on your social media to talk about the benefits of telehealth and what kinds of appointments you're offering. We've seen some of our customers shifting like what they're doing, so it's more tailored for the current situation. Again, we have an example that we can show of that later on. But it's all about tapping into what your clients need now and how their life has changed again. So you might want to update all that. You might want to put out some content, some blogs, some posts on social media, either giving people like a taster of what they can expect from your telehealth sessions, or even talking about like what you're doing for clients. The ideal, I think, would be if you could share like a testimonial from a client who has already had a telehealth appointment. Send that in an email, put that on your social media, put that front and center on your website, because that will give people the confidence to come and book an appointment. Because, I mean, when you switch to telehealth, you were probably a bit wary of like, oh my gosh, how is this going to work? And your clients are probably in that position now. So you have a lot you can offer to them via telehealth. And you want to make sure it's like really clear and really simple for them to understand what they're going to get out of it.
Yeah, for sure. Just one thing on the testimonials I should mention is that some associations and governing bodies don't allow you to use testimonials for promotion depending on your modality profession. So you probably know about it already if it's one of yours, but just do be careful with that if that's something that you're restricted on. So with the telehealth, what about maybe, again, coming back to video, it seems to be a hot topic for this session, but what about if they put up a little demo video or something of them doing a telehealth with someone else in the clinic, another practitioner or a friend or whatever, just to show a bit of an example of what it could look like, in case there's any fear of what does telehealth actually mean, because it's kind of a word that no one was using 2 months ago very much, and now it's become a big thing, but people maybe can't visualize or understand exactly what you're going to do, or what are you still capable of doing via telehealth. I think even of the recent live broadcast I did with some people that were talking about objective assessments for functional movement and just how much they could still achieve via telehealth. So I think really educating people on what can still be achieved. There's a lot of research behind telehealth as well. So explain what it is, maybe even give an easy digestible demo of what it would look like and the benefits they can get out of it.
You could even have like an FAQ on your site about telehealth. If you don't want to completely change what you already have on your page, you could have a banner at the top that says something like book a telehealth appointment, and then link to an FAQ section that just goes through step by step how it works, how long the sessions are, what kinds of things you cover. I think anything that illuminates the process for your clients is gonna help them feel confident booking with you.
And we've got some like social images and shareable images to say you're doing telehealth that are going to come out with the post after this, right?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So we had a designer that works on Cliniko. His name's Kelly. He put together, I think it's 9 different images that you can use for social media to promote that you're doing telehealth. And we'll make sure to include those in the blog post and the email that goes out afterwards. So you've got some high quality images you can use as well.
Yeah.
So then people that are still operating, but people that are operating with new restrictions or procedures in place or things are just a bit different. What about them?
Mm-hmm. You want to show the changes you've made, because again, people, if you're telling people you're still open, they may be wondering, well, is it safe for me to go? Should I be staying home? Especially if they're in like a more high risk group. They may be thinking, is it safe for me to go now? Should I just wait? And so for that reason, I'd recommend, again, an FAQ section about what you're doing to keep your clients safe during COVID, and who should feel confident coming in. If you have people who are more at risk, you may want to tell them to stay home, to continue to stay home rather. It would help to include photos of the inside of your clinic, maybe some changes you've made. You could even do a video about that. If you have images from before and after, I think that would really help people understand what to expect when they come in, because there's a lot of anxiety around going out in public in some places, not everywhere, but just making it as predictable an experience as possible, I think will go a long way in helping people to be confident booking.
Yep. I'm going to jump back to a couple of questions I see that were asked earlier. So one was talking about when they asked about live pre-recorded, also optimal length. So I'm sure the context matters, but what we have found is we have been doing feedback surveys on our sessions, and people seem to be happy with the time that we've been doing it, and that's been 1 hour sessions roughly. We asked if people would like shorter or longer, and they seem to like the 1 hour session. So at least that's our findings. I don't know if there's any general research or information you have on that, Michelle.
I think it really depends on the topic. So like, for example, if you looked at the news and you saw that like more people are buying bikes than ever before now, you might want to do like a video on how to set up a bike, and that could be like 15 minutes or maybe less. I think there's value in all different lengths of content. It's just about trial and error a little bit, and it's okay if your video is short. Facebook does prefer slightly longer videos if you're posting on there. Just be aware of that. I think 3 minutes or above, but that doesn't mean you can't have success with shorter videos. So yeah, give it a try. You don't have to do a full hour. That is a lot of content, but if you have a specific topic, make sure you're just giving enough information that your client's going to get value out of it.
Sure. Had a question about flyers. Do flyers still work, and what's a reasonable response rate to them? I'm not even sure it depends on the country, I guess, whether you can have even people handing out the flyers. You might be a little restricted on that. But I guess in general, what are your thoughts on flyers at this point?
Yeah, so I don't know if you mean you yourself going out and handing them out, or like using a media company. From everything I've heard from my colleagues in marketing, traditional media, so things like flyering or newspaper ads, all that stuff is now dirt cheap. So if you feel confident that you have the cash to spend, this is the time to do it. And what I'd say is maybe for flying, it can work. You're still getting your name out there. But I think you need to be conscious that even though the cost of the media is cheaper, you may see fewer conversions off the back of it than you normally would. And I think there's still value in that if you're building your brand. So if you have a reasonable kind of campaign goal by doing the flyering, that you just want people to know you're there and you've got a good deal and you are okay with the risk of spending the cash, there is value in that. Flyering, I guess, if you're in social distancing also is probably maybe not the best thing. But if you're just having like people send flyers through door drops or through people's posts, I mean, it's probably more of an awareness activity than a conversion activity.
Yep, that makes sense. So if we look at specific platforms, I know some people are asking about Google Ads and Facebook Ads. Maybe we drive to Google Ads first because it's usually a very significant one for people. So someone was asking, should they continue to spend on Google Ads right now, considering they can't actually drive the face-to-face traffic that they normally are?
Yeah, so both with Google and Facebook, what most people are seeing is that the cost per 1,000 views, or CPM, has gone down a lot, and that is because there's just fewer people bidding for that space on Facebook and Google. However, the flip side of that is you'll be getting fewer conversions. So if all of your campaigns on Facebook and Google are optimized for sale, you're probably going to see your cost per acquisition or cost per lead go up quite significantly. I mean, if you're still seeing decent results, it still makes sense for you on a profitability level. Give it a try, but I would keep a very close eye on that, especially if you've seen a decrease in the number of appointments you're getting. And I think there's plenty of things you can do on the organic side that build your brand that you could do instead. If you're like looking at your budgets and you're like, geez, I don't know if I should still be doing this. I think it might be worth considering going to a more organic strategy for the time being and doing more brand building versus, sending money to try and get people further down the funnel when they're just not buying.
That makes a lot of sense. So I think that, a lot of businesses are pretty cash strapped at the moment and trying to make sure they have as long a runway as possible, not knowing, how long the downturn goes for. So if you can get effective conversions now, then it's worthwhile. But if it's just a matter of building your brand for later, probably it does make sense. Perhaps you're finding yourself at the moment where you've got less money to spend on advertising, but you've got more time to spend on advertising. So it might be worth, like we talked about earlier, producing some content and doing some of the things that require your hours as opposed to your dollars or your pounds to actually spend on it may make sense now, unless you're getting an immediate conversion and it is, having a positive impact on your business's revenue right away. With all that said, one thing I always just like to point out, if people aren't already looking at it in this direction, I always think of Google and Facebook pretty different for advertising, where Google is when you can advertise to someone that's kind of ready to buy. So you can get someone that goes into Google and types in physiotherapy region, and probably they're looking to go to a physio right now. So if you can pop up and be available to them, they're pretty late in that sales cycle and ready to purchase. Whereas on Facebook, you can target people via demographics, things they like. It's quite different. So, perhaps again, with the physiotherapy example, on Google, you might be looking for someone looking for a physiotherapist right now. And on Facebook, maybe you're looking for people that go to a particular gym in your area or, do certain activities that lend themselves to being your type of patient. And then, so you're going to have probably lower conversion rate or a longer sales cycle to convert those people, but also, could end up being a cheaper avenue as well. So I think when you're looking where you're spending your money, you've got to work out what are you trying to achieve. You're looking for that person that's ready to buy now, or you're looking to build for later. And maybe the platforms, platform choice is dependent on that.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to check quickly. So someone asked about Bluetooth beacons. So I assume by Bluetooth beacons you're referring to there's some advertising platforms out there that allow you to target people, depends on where they've been, because much to some people's surprise, a lot of applications on your phone are sending out these beacons to alert advertising networks where you are. So if you wanted to, with the example, if you wanted to advertise to people that have been to the local gym, some of these advertising networks can actually let you do so based on the fact that that person went into that vicinity, and they sort of geo-target them when these beacons are fired off on their phone. So I'm assuming that's what the person's asking about. Michelle, do you have thoughts on this? Have you ever done advertising via them?
So on Facebook, you can actually target, if you have more than one practice or more than one shop front, you can target people in the area of your branches, your practices with messages telling them to come in. So I know Facebook has, I think they've restricted.
Do you mean like the message goes out while they're nearby your shop front, like as in?
They'll see an ad. It's not the same as beacons. I think beacons sometimes send like an SMS, maybe. That I think there's different ways you can do it. But for Facebook, if they're in Facebook, it will show them an ad, and it's targeted towards the fact that they're near your clinic. You need to have more than one clinic to be able to do this for privacy reasons. I think Facebook has actually changed what you're able to do. Now instead, Facebook's trying to persuade people to send a message instead, just saying we're closed, or here's how you can actually reach us. So that might be one way to think about beacons if you have them, is use it as a way to kind of tell people your status and remind them that you're open or you're not open, and tell them how they can follow up with you. I think that's the most value you're going to get out of those right now.
It probably makes sense.
People are
it's
not
like a food store where they can send out a message saying like, hey, do you want a burger now? Are you hungry? And you might go in and grab one, as opposed to the physio that's like, hey, is your shoulder sore? Do you want to come get a treatment now? It's less likely you're going to make that ad hoc decision to just head right in.
Yeah.
What else? So other platforms, what about LinkedIn? We haven't talked about LinkedIn at all. And I personally avoid LinkedIn, but I know it's still used by some people.
Yeah, so LinkedIn, most people I think don't know that LinkedIn is no longer really like an online CV. It's much more of a content platform. And actually until late last year, it was one of the best platforms for organic reach. Like in terms of, I think if you're on LinkedIn now, you probably know of people like Oleg, or people who seem to have like a high profile for themselves, just by putting content on LinkedIn. And it kind of varies in quality. I'd say it's probably worth staying professional on there if you're going to use it. But yeah, the trend on LinkedIn seems to be that it's much more about you as a thought leader than you promoting like a business page. That can vary depending on what you're trying to get out of LinkedIn. But yeah, I think a little bit earlier I mentioned, I know some people have businesses that do target other businesses. So massage therapists that go to offices and give massages, who maybe right now are like a little bit unsure of what's going to happen next. putting content on there and answering some questions and building your brand on LinkedIn could pay back in dividends down the line. It's really you treat it like a blog, or like if you're familiar with Medium, it's a little bit like that. You want to include your hashtags, you want to look at where your target audience is again, and join groups, and just build up your personal profile. I think it'd be really ideal if you were like a one-man band and you really wanted people to come to you specifically. There'd be a lot of value in doing that right now.
Yep. I guess LinkedIn is probably somewhere else as well where you can build a professional network. So if you're an allied health practitioner and you want to be getting referrals from doctors and specialists, that might be a place where you get in front of them, connect to them, and maybe can build up a referral network as well as, connecting to potential clients, patients. So just one other thing, I guess someone was asking about boosting posts on Facebook. So perhaps you could give people an indication. I know our audience is different necessarily to what theirs is, but what sort of engagement we're getting across platforms with Cliniko. We broadcast to the blog, we put stuff on our community site, we have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, we're all over the place. Where are we getting our most engagement?
Most of our engagements on Facebook. Facebook is our biggest page. So we have, I think, over 10,000 followers now. And I think actually, as a proof that like what I'm saying isn't just made up, that people are actually still engaging, we've seen a huge increase in our engagement. I mean, granted, we've been posting a lot more than we usually do, but we've had posts get hundreds of likes, including we posted about a milestone we reached where we had a year's worth of telehealth calls in 7 days. And that post we didn't actually boost because we couldn't. It had too much text in the image. And that got a really strong organic reach. So that's probably one of our strongest posts. Joel, you've posted some stuff that's had a really strong organic and paid reach. But yeah, people are online, people are looking. So if I think now really is the time to try new content on platforms if you haven't done it before, because yes, there are some constraints as far as Facebook specifically not having the best organic reach anymore, but people are using it. People are looking for content, so it's worth a try.
And I think just one other thing, when you are posting, there is a lot of noise around on these platforms. So, something eye-catching can be good, something different can be good. And also just developing the personality of your brand. It doesn't have to be super professional or super business-like. You'll probably find with the Cliniko postings we do, it's a lot more casual in tone because we try to just be ourselves in the communication as opposed to putting on a corporate voice or a business voice or something like that. And I think it makes sense for your own businesses. How do you want to be perceived? Are you super professional? Are you friendly? Are you fun? What is it? And then making sure that the way you're posting and talking reflects that as well.
Yeah, I mean, your social media should be a reflection of your values as a clinician. And also it should be like a kind of give people an idea of what to expect from you. You're building connections with your patients. So you want that to be reflected in your social media. It doesn't need to be super formal or stiff, or, you don't need to worry about making yourself seem bigger than you are. I think social media is about building relationships. So showing your genuine self is a really good way to boost your engagement.
Yeah. So I want to jump into some of the examples that you put together. So Michelle found some examples of different things people are doing online and also some tools that can be of assistance. So let me bring that up and share that with you. We'll go through those, and I see there's some questions waiting, so we should have time to come back and get to those as well. So I'm just bringing up now, Michelle, for them, the examples that you mentioned, the customer examples that are out there. So let me see if I can grab that first one. So this is a website, we've got a video on the homepage.
Yeah, so Norwest Wellbeing. So I was really blown away by this page, and I'll tell you why. So if you look at the image in the top left, it says COVID-19 updates, right, clear in your face, not in your face, but it's really obvious that if you're going to their site to look and see if they're open or what they're doing, that they have updated it in light of COVID, and they've got their contact number. They've got, further down the page, they've got more about their opening hours. But I wanted to draw attention particularly to the banner, or the section underneath the navigation where it says the time to make a change is now. I really think this is a great piece of marketing because he's changed his message to suit the times, and he's giving people a reason to contact him, a reason to continue to book with him. He's telling them what problems of theirs he's going to solve. And I think that is a really strong way to continue to foster business at this time. And he's got his video as well that, if you don't want to read a lot of text, some people, he has that more engaging piece right there telling you. And again, from this, you're going to know what to expect. There's a clear call to action, get started today. So this is a really good example. Don't worry if your page doesn't look exactly like this, but I think that the key thing is that he's really tapping into what his clients need and what they're looking for and how their lives have changed. And I think anybody could do that.
Yep, I agree. That one's a great one. So let me see if I can bring up our next, maybe. Give me 1 second. There we go. So the next one I've got is a banner that's appearing over the website that is online appointments now available.
Yeah, so this one I really like because it kind of gets to the point. They've still got their online appointments going. You can still book with them. They haven't changed their entire page, but they've just got this pop-up. And I think for most content management systems, it's very easy to find these plugins if you're using WordPress or Squarespace even. It's very easy to find these tools that you can just populate with an image, put your text in there, and then you don't have to make it a pop-up if you don't want to, or an overlay, but just make sure it's really clear, it's got a clear call to action, and that you're telling people what you're doing now.
Yeah, I think the biggest advantage of that, like you said, is the ease of implementation. There's a lot of plugins and things you can find that can make that easy to do. So next up, I've got another website. This is Hawker Place.
Yeah, so again, just another example of changing your page for the situation. So this one has a few different ways you can get in touch. It's telling you that they've got telehealth available, but it's also reassuring you that it's safe to engage with them. Again, they've got a video as well. It's not streamed in the page like the other one, but it just shows you that you can have more than one. There's more than one way to skin a cat.
So this looks like as well, they've got two sort of call to actions here. They're talking about the safe professional environment, but then next to it as well, there's telehealth service. So they're really covering both avenues as well. Looks like saying that it's a safe environment, but also there's telehealth there too.
Yep.
Okay. So then we've got a Facebook page.
So yeah, I just wanted to quickly go over what you can do on Facebook. So these guys have their Telehealth Tuesday. They've made it a regular piece of content that they show you what they're doing with their telehealth. You can see they've got their own graphics that they've developed, and they're explaining what they're going to do for you. And then if you look in the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see they have a little chat pop up. So this could be really useful if you are, maybe one person, or you are your team's kind of furloughed, or you're not necessarily running at full capacity, but you still want people to be able to find answers. You could very easily set this up on your own Facebook page that will pop up, and people can self-select for their own answers. And in the links after this call, we're going to have how to do this. It's pretty simple in Facebook, so I definitely recommend having this. Or if you don't like Facebook Messenger, which is totally legitimate, you can also pin your FAQs to the top of the page.
Okay, great. Then I've got this one is Instagram, if I'm not mistaken, because I'm not an Instagram user. This is Dr. Braun.
Oh right, yeah. So definitely check out Dr. Braun Osteo if you are interested in getting started on Instagram, or if you want to amp up your Instagram now. I think her profile is brilliant. Her grid is beautiful. But I included this example because it shows her personality. So she's got her message. It's really clear. It's really easy to understand what's going on. And it's very much personalized. You get a sense of who she is and what she's about, and what it'd be like to go and have an appointment with her.
It's amazing. The text in the main part, just adding the yay at the end of that second sentence makes all the difference in the tone of that image.
Yes, exactly.
It's really cool. So we've got another Instagram. This is physiotherapy video link appointments image.
Yeah, so this is just another way to approach promoting, if you have telehealth. So this one has lists of like what they can do for you. The only thing I'd say is if you are boosting your posts, this is a lot of text to have for an ad. You wouldn't be able to turn this into an ad. So just bear that in mind. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It's just if you are putting spend behind your posts, it's something to be aware of. Yeah. However, with this, you could also have hashtags and get the organic reach that way.
It's something that we've touched on a couple of times as well. So with Facebook, when you try to boost, and I assume Instagram's the same, they don't want you making an image with big words to sort of be dodgy and put a big splash image of text on the screen. So they check the amount of the image that is text and don't let you boost it if it's too much. We've encountered it a bit ourselves just because when we show a screenshot of software that's got text in it, it can trip up their guidelines. So you just need to make sure that the percentage or proportion of the image isn't too much text so that you can still boost it.
Yeah, the actual proportion is 20%. So okay. The text should be no more than 20%. Facebook has a tool called the overlay tool, and you can upload your post if you're unsure if it meets those guidelines, but it's not super reliable, that tool. Sometimes it says it's fine and it's not. So 20% eyeballing it is probably a good rule of thumb.
Now I've got another Instagram one. The sooner we get rid of COVID-19, the sooner we can brace each other.
So this is actually part of a carousel. So there's multiple images. And what I really loved about this one was, he had like a list built into Instagram. And I'm not showing it here, but the first post just had a little bit of copy, and then you could slide through to get the different reasons why you should book telehealth, or why he's doing what he's doing, and it's just very transparent. He's also got his social media links at the bottom, which you probably don't need on Instagram, but I think it's a good way to let your customers know that you are on these other channels, because if you're going to launch something new, nobody will necessarily know you're there unless you tell them.
Makes sense. And I've got an email presumably now.
Yep. So this is from a chiropractor in Canada, Riverside Clinic. And I thought this was a really great email because it makes it really clear what's going on, what he's doing. And then he's also further down the page saying how he can help his clients. He's offered to buy them groceries, and you don't have to do that, but it just shows you it's an opportunity to strengthen the relationship with your clients, even if you're only on call like he is. And there is a lot of opportunity to keep those channels open.
Okay, great. And then finally, for the examples, we have SMS message as well.
Yeah, so mostly I included this one because it shows you don't need to do anything elaborate or fancy. You just need to tell people that their appointments are canceled. You don't need to, if you don't want to write loads, just make sure you're doing the bare minimum and people will get the message.
If anyone missed the start of this session, we mentioned a couple of times that you should let people know if you're open or not. And if you're closed, be very communicative with your client and patient base. Okay, so then aside from these examples that we have here, we've also got some tools that you want to mention. So I'm going to bring up, I have a crazy looking word star thing.
Yes. So if you are thinking about blogging for the first time and you're not sure what to write, there's a really cool tool called Answer the Public. It's free. It's a website actually. And you can just go there, type in your modality, and it will give you all of the questions people are asking online about your modality. So yeah, it's a really good place to start of a minimum amount of content you'd want to have on your site. So it's more searchable, more visible in search engines, but also so you're answering people's questions, and this will keep you busy for a while. But yeah, it's just a good source of inspiration.
So have you put Cliniko into this? Have you checked what people are asking about us?
I haven't done that recently, so I'll do that after this call, but it's just a good place to start.
Okay, so we'll get the link out in that email that we send afterwards in the blog post. There'll be a link to this particular site, presumably.
Yes.
Okay, great. That's really cool. That'd be a great way to get some content to put together. And then I've got another one. Is this Canva I'm looking at?
Yeah, so it's not like the most obvious page, but if you don't know about Canva, it's a free design platform. So if you are if you really want to be on Instagram, but you're not a graphic designer or you have hangups about making your own images, this is a great tool for you. It's got a free version, but basically it just makes it really easy for you to create images for any platform There'll be all the correct sizes that you need, and then you can just add the text, add your background, and you're ready to go. So it's taking the fuss out of the design aspect of it. The only thing I'd say is just be aware that if you're using a stock image, somebody else might be using the same image. So if you can do your own, it's always best to take your own photos. But this is a good stopgap if you just want to get stuff underway.
Okay, excellent. And then finally for the tools, this is Creator Studio, is it?
Yes. So I just wanted to call attention to this one because I think it could help a lot of people. It's a Facebook run tool. It's free to use again. It's really easy to integrate with your Facebook and Instagram accounts, but it just makes it really, really easy to post. I know that the Facebook interface on Facebook is pretty poor. It's really slow.
With this, Michelle, I have vested interest in this one because, as you know, I post a fair bit to our Facebook page, and I've never used Creator Studio. I always do it straight from the Facebook page itself. I hadn't even seen what it looked like until now. So what's something compelling? Why would I consider to switch and use this instead of the way I'm doing at the moment?
So you can see everything you've posted. You can see everything that's coming up really easily. You can schedule really easily. You can post different kinds of content, but for Instagram in particular, you can post from your desktop. Okay. And that's a huge plus if you're trying to post things from your phone and you don't particularly love doing that. The only thing I'll say is it still won't put spaces in the posts for Instagram. So if you press enter between paragraphs, it still won't show up. You'll need a separate tool for that. But everything else, it just makes it a lot easier.
There's a tool to put the blank lines on Instagram.
Yes, there is. It basically codes them in. I don't have the name of it off the top of my head. People make them for free. If you Google like Instagram space,
okay,
you'll find it.
Is that
I'll put it in the link.
You go to that site, you type what you want, and then it gives you something to copy paste back into the Creator Studio to use?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty handy. I didn't know that. And again, just coming back to Creator Studio, so that's specifically for posting to Facebook and Instagram only, just for those two?
Yes, just for those two.
Okay. All right. That's great. So I think that's all we had with the examples to show people. I'll switch back from there. So I'm just going to have a look now at some of the questions that we've been skipping over. Someone wants to know WhatsApp versus Telegram for engagement with patients. I know nothing of either of them, so maybe you do.
I would say WhatsApp's probably a bit more commonly used than Telegram. Telegram's a bit niche. But again, if you have a lot of patients who are using Telegram, that might be better. What's interesting about WhatsApp is they've just released a business app, or they may not have just released it. I might have just discovered it. But you can set up your own business account on WhatsApp, which is a really good way to kind of bridge the gap. If you have people who prefer to text, or you want an easy way to engage people on WhatsApp, it saves them having to call you. They still can. And then you can also automate your responses within WhatsApp. So that's another link that's coming up after this call. If you have a lot of clients using WhatsApp, I'd recommend using that tool. But as far as which one, WhatsApp's probably a bit more commonly used.
Okay. Is there ideal times to post to Facebook?
I would say, think about like what your clients are doing in the day. But definitely experiment. You might be surprised. That's something we do here at Cliniko. We post at different times. Our case is a little bit different because we have loads of different time zones. But as a general rule of thumb, people tend to look at their phone more at lunchtime or when they're on their commute in the morning or in the evening. Obviously, it doesn't apply now necessarily, but usually those are the top times to post. But yeah, experiment.
Okay. What about creating an electronic product for brand awareness? So doing a course or an ebook or something like that?
Yeah, you can do that. I would say it's a good opportunity to do like a value add for your clients. If you're looking at it as another revenue source, I guess that's also a good thing you could do. I would promote it through all your existing channels. So, make sure you've got a solid client base. Make sure you've got, your followers who you maybe will guinea pig it on, and then they can say how much they enjoyed it and help you get the word out about it. You can still run ads for it, but I'd say if you're going to do something like that, I'd probably try and keep it organic for the time being, because it's going to be a big investment to make it. And then, if you can get the organic boost, that would be ideal.
Okay. A way to check the generic positioning of a website on Google based on chosen keywords, so how they can see how they're ranking.
Okay, so in the links, again, I'm going to have a free audit you can do for your SEO. But basically, yeah, just if you Google free audit tool, you'll be able to see how your page is performing, and then make those changes now if you want to, whether that's, optimizing the number of keywords on your page, creating new pages based on your services, that kind of stuff. This is a good time to do it if you can. So we'll have more resources on that.
Okay, in those resources, do we have, because there's kind of two parts usually to the research they might do. They want to see how they're ranking on keywords that they know of, but also you might want to look up and find what keywords should you be caring about. So what keywords are getting the most traffic through on Google? Because maybe, there's something that you're trying to optimize for, and then when you actually check, it's not how people are writing it, it's not what they're really searching for. Do you have something in there for that as well?
Yeah. Yeah, you can use Google Trends to do some keyword research. There's also a tool called Uber Suggest, which is free, that does a little bit more of a deep dive on what your competitors are looking for, if that's useful to you, if you have a competitive market, and give you inspiration for other things you could rank for.
Okay. Someone's asking about an app to post to multiple platforms. The only one that I know of, but haven't used it, is Buffer, that I've seen around a while, that posts to multiple platforms and can delay and schedule. I don't know if you know much of Buffer, or are there others that you come to mind?
I think there's also Hootsuite, but they may have changed a lot since I've been using them. So I usually use actually one of our SEO tools to post on LinkedIn and Twitter for scheduling. It's called SEMrush. You can get a free trial of SEMrush, but it's a little bit pricey month on month. Depends how invested in SEO you are. So yeah, there's a lot of really good scheduling tools out there.
Someone's asking about getting someone to write their content. So one thing, my thoughts on it would be, to start with, I think it's a good idea to write some yourself, because you'll start to learn your audience and you'll start to get a feel for the sort of things that you want to be talking about. For us at Cliniko, we do all of ours internally. I know there's places that you can sort of get content writers and outsource that. We haven't done so ourselves. So we have a writer in the team, and then we have others in the team also putting together content, people that are doing it sort of relevant to their role that they're in. And I know there's plenty of allied health businesses that really strongly encourage their team to put out some content as well, whether it's short videos or writing blogs for their website or something. Because if you're not a solo practitioner, if there's other people in your team, everyone's got vested interest in your business and your company doing well, so they could hopefully contribute, in their downtime as well, and put out some content that promotes, your business and maybe themselves also. Do we need any keywords on blogs? So before I send that one to you, Michelle, I did read recently that there was kind of, as close as we get to evidence, that putting your blog as a, like for ours, we've got cliniko.com/blog. We used to be blog.cliniko.com, and forever Google had said it doesn't matter, it won't affect you, but everyone keeps finding anecdotal evidence that it does. And I saw a recent article came out that pretty strongly testified that when they moved it, they had a really different spike in organic traffic. So I know this is about keywords, but I do believe that the jury's almost out to say that putting /blog at the end is much better than doing blog. Is that what you found?
I think I think what matters is that your blog is linked from your homepage. That's easy to navigate to. In terms of like the structure of your URL, like you could probably find anecdotal evidence either way. Again, it's just that you've got the prominence for the blog within your homepage, and that you're sending traffic there, and also that you're producing good content. That's probably going to have a much bigger effect on your SEO than.
So you're not convinced on the /blog thing being better.
So there's a blog I follow called Cliniko. I'll add that to the URLs, and they do all these kind of experiments about this kind of thing, and they're always inconclusive. So for me, personally, I just like to focus more on what I know is going to drive more traffic and be a better experience for the user, because I think that's the direction that Google's going anyway. And things like that, I mean, I think they matter a lot less than the quality that you're
That
producing.
makes sense. I've got a question coming through about how we have our little pop-up chat window on Cliniko and in Cliniko. So we use Intercom for it, but it's probably grossly overkill for what you would want on your website. There's a lot of live chat options. They all have very similar functionality. One that we used to use, and I believe is still around, was called OLARK, OLARK, that was good and fine, but we ended up finding more... We had bigger needs, so we use it for our help desk as well, and we use it for some push out notifications. So ours is a little bit different. But if you just look for a live chat on your website, you should find something like it. So Michelle, I don't think we covered that quite. So people saying, where was the one? Do we need to have keywords on the blog? So do they actually need to fit certain words into the title of the blog, into the subject? Do they need to do the metadata on the page? Maybe you can just do a quick summary of what's a very complicated topic.
Yeah. So yes, you should be optimizing your blog for your keywords. So the words that you most want people to find when they Google you. And each piece of content that you produce should be corresponding to a term that you want people to find you for. And yes, the way that you would optimize those pages has changed a lot over the years. It used to be you could just stuff keywords in there and that'd be fine. But now it's very much possible to over-optimize your page. So there's actually a really handy tool that, again, is in the links after this called SEMrush Writing Assistant. So if you're writing blogs and you have a specific keyword that you're trying to create content around, you can just enter that in there and it will tell you exactly what keywords to use where and how well optimized your blog is going to be. I highly recommend that. It's also, you don't want to use exactly the same word everywhere. So like if you were a mechanic or something and you wanted to have auto repair, you wouldn't want to say exactly that everywhere. You want to have keywords that are also related to that and kind of variations in the keyword that Google will recognize and be like, oh yeah, this page is about this, and show it for relevant searches versus like the same word over and over again everywhere.
So I didn't know this SEMrush writer. So if I do a blog post for Cliniko and I post it in for review, do you get it and drop it into SEMrush and have a look to see if it needs changes in that regard? Like, do you put all our posts through it, or just the ones that you're preparing, or none?
The one explicitly for like marketing purposes, I would use SEMrush. For yours, Joel, I think they achieve their goals without needing to do that. Like ultimately you're doing SEO because you want to drive traffic. If you're getting good results, not optimizing and just like having a strong opinion about things, I think that takes a back seat to, well, I don't want to say that. It's more like write for humans. Yep. Don't write for machines.
Okay, that makes sense. That's easy to follow. Value of starting a podcast. So I guess one thing I would just note is we could create a podcast from these sessions like we're doing now. So we leave them up on YouTube and they stay there. But we could also, syndicate them to a podcast and have them available like a podcast as well. So I'd say you can do a live event that turns into a podcast. But that part aside, what do you think for healthcare business value in starting a podcast?
I think if you are able to consistently create content like that, because podcasts are a ton of work, it's worth it. Podcasts have had a real spike in popularity, and if that's the medium you want to reach people, it's a great way to get your voice heard and get out there. But it's also like a huge resource commitment. It's so much research and work. So as a non-visual medium, I'd say it's also probably going to be, I don't want to say less shareable than like a video, because I don't really know if that's true, but like in terms of people being able to just click it and access it, I think video is probably almost if you can only choose one, I'd choose video, but podcast could also have a lot of value for your clients. It just depends on whether you'll be able to keep up with it, because there's a lot of abandoned podcasts out there.
In scanning the comments, also I noticed that your diplomacy in answering the question about my blog post didn't go unnoticed. People are impressed by your diplomatic nature of that response.
I've only been here for 4 months, so it's all convenient.
So if we do this again in a year, it'll be a very different answer.
Yeah.
So I think that's the main questions that have come through. We probably should finish up. We've gone a bit over the hour that we try to stick to. I really appreciate everyone joining, especially Michelle. Thank you for coming on and doing this and sharing your knowledge with everyone.
No problem. It's great to be able to do something in the midst of all this. And I'm sure a lot of people will agree with me that that's really what marketing is all about, is just creating value and doing something that helps others.
Yeah, that's I don't know that everyone agrees with that, but that's a very good way to tackle it. Definitely a good approach to it. So just a couple of other little things. We've got a feedback survey that I think we might get posted in the comments in a moment, but also we'll send it out. If you are able to provide feedback on these sessions, it's much appreciated. We're actually going to be doing 2 this week. So we have a second one coming up that we will send out information about sometime in the next few hours probably, and that's a security-based one that I'm going to be doing on Thursday morning Australian time. So that's going to be Thursday morning, Australian Eastern Standard Time. We will send out details about it. I'm going to be chatting with Bill from our team who works in operations, and we're going to talk security. We're going to talk about the security that you can do to keep your stuff safe, but also if you have your team working from home, tips that you can encourage them to follow to make sure they're keeping all your information safe as well. And next week we have one on chronic pain, helping people with chronic pain via telehealth, a really strongly research-backed session. I have a really exciting guest for it that we'll announce soon as well. So we've got those 2 sessions coming up. We'll send out the details to everyone, and also the follow-up to this will have all the links that we talked about as well. So thanks everyone for joining, and thanks Michelle again.